Good day, everyone. I'm Maria Teresa J. Tixun, the first reporter of Group 6. Our topic is all about environmental cycles and processes. Objectives. At the end of this chapter, students should be able to first identify the significance of biogeochemical cycles, second, discuss the processes involved in the hydrologic cycle, third, relate carbon dioxide and oxygen cycle and their importance, fourth, discuss phosphorus cycle, lastly, analyze an environmental issues and offer solutions. So, biogeochemical cycles refers to the overall chemical cycles through both the biological and the geological world. Each chemical has its own unique cycle, but all of the cycles do have something in common. So, reservoirs are those parts of the cycle where the chemical is held in large quantities for a long period of time. In exchange pools, on the other hand, the chemical is held for only short time, short for only a short length of time. A chemical is held in an exchange pool is termed a time. The oceans are reservoir for water while a clouds is an exchange pool. So, next is water cycle, also known as the hydrologic cycle, is the path water takes through its various states: vapor, liquid, solid, as it moves throughout the ocean, atmosphere, groundwater, stream, etc. And the water cycle energy is supplied by the sun, which drives evaporation, whether it is from ocean surface or from treetops. So, the sun. So, the sun also provides the energy which drives the weather system, which move the water vapor from one place to another. Next is evaporation. Is the revised process in which liquid water becomes gaseous. Once water's condensed, gravity takes over and the water is pulled to the ground. Gravity continues to operate, either pulling the water underground or across the surface. In either event, gravity continues to pull water lower and lower until it reaches the oceans and other such depressions. May also serve as the lowest basin into which water can be drawn. Evaporation occurs when the physical states of water is changed from a liquid state to a gaseous state. A considerable amount of heat, about 600 calories of energy for each gram of water. It exchange during the change of state, typically solar radiation and other factors such as air temperature, vapor pressure, wind, and atmospheric pressure affect the amount of natural evaporation that takes place in any geographic area. Evaporation can occur on raindrops and on free water surface such as seas and lakes. It can even occur from water settled on vegetation, soil, rocks, and snow. There is also evaporation caused by human activities. Heat buildings experience evaporation of water settled on its surface. Evaporated moisture is lifted into the atmosphere from the ocean, land surface, and water bodies as water vapor. Some vapor always exists in the atmosphere. Next is transpiration. Is the biological process that occurs mostly in the day. Water inside of plant is transferred from the plant to the atmosphere as water vapor through numerous individual leaf openings. Plants transfer to move into nitrogen to the upper portion of the plants and to cool the leaves exposed to the sun. Leaves undergoing rapid transpiration can be significantly cooler than the surrounding air. Transpiration is greatly affected by the species of plant that are in the soil, and it's strongly affected by the amount of light to which the plant are exposed. Water can be transpired freely by plants until a water deficit develops in the plant and its water releasing cells or stomata begin to close. Transpiration then continues at a most slower rate. Only a small portion of the water that plants absorb are retained in the plants. Vegetation generally retards evaporation from the soil. Vegetation that is shading the soil reduces the wind velocity, also releasing water vapor to the atmosphere, reduce the amount of direct evaporation from the soil or from snow or ice cover. The absorption of water into plants' roots, along with interception that occurs on plant surface offset the general effect of vegetation has in retarding evaporation from the soil. The forest vegetation tends to have more moisture than the soil beneath the trees. Next is condensation. Is the process by which water vapor changes its physical states from a vapor, most commonly to a liquid. Water vapor condenses onto small airborne particles to form dew, fog, or clouds. The most active particles that form clouds are C-cell, atmospheric, ion caused by lightning, and combustion product containing sulfurous and nitrous acids. Condensation is brought about by cooling of the air or by increasing the amount of vapor in the air to its saturation point. When water vapor condenses back into a liquid state, the same large amount of heat, 600 calories of energy per gram, that was needed to make it a vapor is released to the environment. Next is the frozen water may be trapped in the colder regions of the earth as snow or ice, and may remain as such of very long period of time, like ponds and wetlands form where water is temporarily trapped. The ocean are salty because any weathering of minerals that occurs as the water runs to the ocean will add to the mineral content of the water, but water cannot leave the ocean except by evaporation, and evaporation leaves the minerals behind. Those rainfall and snowfall are compressed of relatively clean water, with the exception of pollutant pick up as the water fall through the atmosphere. Organisms play an important role in the water cycle. Most organisms contains a significant amount of water, up to 90% of their body weight. This water is not held for any length of time and moves out of the organism rather, rather quickly in most cases. Animals and plants lose water through evaporation from the body surface and through evaporation from the gas exchange structures. In plants, water is drawn in the and at the roots and moves to the gas exchange organs, the leaves, where it evaporates quickly. This special case is called transpiration because it is responsible for so much of the water that enters the atmosphere. Lastly is the precipita- precipitation occurs when water condenses from a gaseous state in the atmosphere and falls to earth. Precipitation is the process that occurs when any and all forms of water particles fall from the atmosphere and reach the ground. There are two sub processes that cause clouds to release precipitation: the coalescence process and the ice crystal process. As water drops reach a critical size, the drop is exposed to gravity and frictional drag. Falling drop leaves a turbulent wake behind which allows smaller drops to fall faster and to be taken to join and combined with the lead drop. Other sub-processes that can occur, the ice crystal and formation process occurs when ice develop in cold clouds or in cloud formation high in the atmosphere where freezing temperatures occur. When nearby water droplets approach the crystal, some droplets evaporate and condense on the crystal. The crystal grows to a critical size and drops as snow or ice. Sometimes as the ice fall or the sometimes as the snow fall through lower elevation air, they melt and change into raindrops. Precipitated water may fall in a water body or it may fall onto land. It is then dispersed several ways. The water can adhere to objects on or near the planet's surface, or it can be carried over and through the land into stream channels, where it may penetrate into the soil, or it will be it may be interpreted by plants. When rainfall is small and infrequent, a high percentage of precipitation is returned to the atmosphere by evaporation. The portion of precipitation that appears in surface streams is called runoff. Runoff may consist of components contribution from such sources as surface runoff, subsurface runoff, or groundwater runoff. Surface runoff travels over the ground surface and through surface channels to leave a catchment area called a drainage basin or watershed. Portion of the surface runoff that flows over the land surface toward the stream channels is called overland flow. The total runoff confined in the stream channels is called the stream flow. So, next, interception is the process of interrupting the movement of water and the chain of transportation events leading to stress. The interception can take place by vegetal cover or depression storage and puddles and inland formations such as rilles and furrows. When rain first began, the water striking leaves and other organic materials spread over the surface in a thin layer or it collects at points or edges when the maximum surface storage capability on the surface of material is exceeded. Material stores. Additionally, water is drawing drops along its edges. Eventually, the height of the drops exceeds the surface tension and water falls to the ground. Wind and the impact of raindrops can also release the water from the organic material. The water layer or organic surface and the drops of water along the edges are also freely exposed to evaporation. Additionally, interception of water on the ground surface during freezing and sub-freezing conditions can be substantial. The interception of falling snow and ice on vegetation also occurs. The highest level of interception occurs when it snows on conifer forests and hardwood forests that have not yet lost their leaves. Next is infiltration. Is the physical process involving movement of water through the boundary area where the atmosphere interface with the soil. The surface phenomenon is governed by soil surface conditions. Water transfer is related to the porosity of the soil and the permeability of the soil profile. Typically, the infiltration rate depends on the puddling of the water at the soil surface by the impact of the raindrops. The texture and the structure of the soil, the initial soil moisture content, the decreasing water concentration as the water moves deeper into the soil, filling of the pores in the soil matrices change the soil composition and to the swelling of the wetted soil that is torn close crack in the soil. Water that is infiltrated and stored in the soil can also become the water that later is evapotranspired or become subsurface runoff. Next is percolation. As the movement of water through the soil and the layers by gravity and capillary forces that the prime moving force of groundwater is gravity. Water is in the zone of station. Air exists is called Vidous water. Water that is the zone of saturation is called groundwater. For all practical purposes, all groundwater originates as surface water. Once underground, the water is moved by gravity. The boundary that separates the Vidous and the saturation zone is called the water table. Usually, the direction of the water movement is changed from downward and a horizontal component to the movement is added that is based on the geologic boundary conditions. Geologic formation is the Earth's crust serve as the natural subterranean reservoirs for storing water. Others can also serve as it, however, moves extremely slowly. A geologic formation which transmit water from one location to another and sufficient quantity for economic development is called an aquifer. The movement of water is possible because of voids in the geologic formations. Some formation conduct water back to the channel. Some formation conduct water back to the ground surface. A spring is placed where the water table reaches the ground surface. Stream channels can be the contact with an unconfined aquifer and approaches the ground surface. Water may move from the ground into stream or vice versa depending on the relative water level. Groundwater discharge into a stream forms the base flow of the stream during dry periods, especially dry periods. An inflowing stream supplies water to an aquifer while effluent stream receives water from the aquifer. Next is runoff. Runoff is the flow from a drainage basin or watershed that appears in surface streams. It generally consists of the flow that is unaffected by artificial diversion, storage, or other works that society might have on or in a stream channel. The flow is made up partly precipitation falls directly on the stream surface, runoff that flows over the land surface and through channels, subsurface runoff that infiltrates the surface soil and moves laterally towards the stream and groundwater runoff from deep percolation through the soil horizons. The subsurface flow enters the stream quickly, while the remaining portion may take a longer period before joining the water and the stream. When each of the component flows enter the stream, they form the total runoff. The total runoff in the stream channel is called stream flow, and it is generally regarded as direct runoff or base flow. Lastly is storage. The type of storage that occurs on the land, surface, and under the ground largely depend on the geologic features related to the types of soil and types of rocks present at the storage location. So, muna siya ang water cycle. The water cycle describes how water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the atmosphere, cools and condenses into rain or snow in clouds, and falls again to the surface as precipitation. So next is carbon cycle. It is the movement of carbon in its many forms between the biosphere, atmosphere, oceans, and geosphere. So plants obtain carbon dioxide from the air and through photosynthesis incorporate carbon into these tissues. Producers and consumers transform part of the carbon and their food back into carbon dioxide via respiration. Decomposer release the carbon tied up and dead plants and animals into the atmosphere. Another major exchange of carbon dioxide occurs between the ocean and the atmosphere. The dissolved carbon dioxide in the ocean is used by marine biota and photosynthesis. Two other important processes are fossil fuel burning and changing land use. In the fossil fuel burning, coral oil, natural gas, and gasoline are consumed by industry, power plant, and automobiles. Changing land use is a broad term which encompasses a host of essentially human activities, including agriculture, deforestation, and reforestation. So next, the global carbon cycle is out of balance, making rapid global climate change more likely. Atmospheric carbon dioxide levels are rising rapidly. Currently, they are 25% above where they stood before the Industrial Revolution. Carbon dioxide forms when the carbon is biomass oxidized as it burns or decays. Many biological processes set in motion by people release carbon dioxide. These include burning fossil fuel, oil and natural gas, slash the born agriculture, clearing land of permanent pasture, cropland or human settlement, accidental and intentional forest burning, and unsustainable logging and firewood collection. Clearing vegetation cover from a forest hectare releases much of the carbon in the vegetation to the atmosphere as well as some of the carbon lodged in the soil. Logging or sustainable foil wood collection can also degrade vegetation cover and result in a net release of carbon. The carbon cycle is relatively simple compared to water cycle. It is complementary reaction of respiration and photosynthesis. So, respiration, uh, respiration takes carbohydrates and oxygen and combines them to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Next is photosynthesis. Takes carbon dioxide and water and produce carbohydrates and oxygen. The output of respiration are the input of photosynthesis, and the output of photosynthesis are the inputs of respiration. The interactions are also complementary in the way they deal with energy. Photosynthesis takes energy from the sun and store it in the carbon band of carbohydrates. Respiration releases that energy. Both plants and animals carry on respiration, but only plants and other producers can carry on photosynthesis. The chief reservoirs for carbon dioxide are in the ocean and in rock. Carbon dioxide dissolves readily in water. Once there it may precipitate as a solid rock known as calcium carbonate or limestone. Corals and algae encourage this reaction and build up limestone reef in the process. On land and in the water, plants take up carbon dioxide and convert it into carbohydrates through photosynthesis. This carbon in the plant can possibly liberated to the atmosphere by the plant through respiration, eaten by an animal, or it can be present in the plant when the plant dies. Animals obtain all their carbon in their food, and those all carbon in biological system ultimately comes from plants and the animal. The carbon also has the possibility to be released to the atmosphere through respiration. So, muna siya ang the carbon cycle. It can either be respired by decomposers or it can be buried in track and ultimately form oil or natural gas. The fossil fuels can be mined and burned in the future, releasing carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Otherwise, the carbon is limestone or other sediments can only be released to the atmosphere when they are subducted and brought the volcanoes, or when they are pushed to the surface and slowly withered away. Hum- Humans have a great impact in the carbon cycles because when we burn fossil fuel, we release excess carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This means that more carbon dioxide goes into the ocean and more is present in the atmosphere. The latter condition causes global warming because the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere allows more energy to reach the earth from the sun that than it allows escaping from the earth into space.
So hi everyone, I'm Marcel August and I'm the second reporter. So I'm going to report first is oxygen cycle. So oxygen is present in carbon dioxide as previously discussed in the carbon cycle. It is also present in carbohydrates, in water, and as a molecule of two oxygen atoms. So oxygen is known as dissolved oxygen or DO in the nature. Oxygen enters water when the water runs over rock and creates tremendous amount of surface area. The high surface area allows the oxygen transfer from the air into the water very quickly. So just as water moves from the sky to the earth and back in the hydrologic cycle, oxygen is also cycled through the environment. Plants mark the beginning of the oxygen cycle. Plants are also used to carbon dioxide and water into carbohydrates and oxygen in the process of photosynthesis. So the next one is nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen cycle is the biochemical cycle by which nitrogen is converted into multiple chemical forms that is circulate among atmospheric, terrestrial, and marine ecosystem. The conversion of nitrogen can be carried out through both biological and physical processes. So, almost all of the nitrogen found in terrestrial ecosystem originally comes from atmosphere. Small proportion enters the soil in rainfall or through the effect of light. Small proportions enters the soil in rainfall or through the effects of lightning moves. So, however, it is biochemically fixed with the soil by specialized microorganisms, members of bean family and some other kind of plants form mutualistic symbiotic relationship with nitrogen fixing bacteria. In exchange for nitrogen, the bacteria receive carbohydrates and special structures in roots with their where they can exist in a moist environment. Scientists estimate that biology fixes globally and approximately 140 million metric tons of nitrogen to ecosystem every year. So nitrogen is critically important in forming the amino portion of the amino acid, which is form the proteins of our body. So proteins makes up skin and muscles, among important structural portion of your body. And all enzymes are proteins. Since enzymes carry out almost all of the chemical reaction in your body, it is easy to see how important nitrogen is. So, the next one is phosphorus cycle. So, phosphorus cycle is the simplest of the cycle. Phosphorus has only one form, phosphate, which is phosphorus atom with 4 oxygen atoms. This heavy molecule never makes its way into the atmosphere. It is always part of an organism dissolved in water or in the form of rock. So, when the rock with phosphate is exposed to the water, so the rock is withered out and gas into solution. So, autotrophs take this phosphorus up and use it in a variety of ways. It is an important constituent of cell membrane, DNA, RNA, and ATP. So, heterotrophs obtain their phosphorus from the plants they eat. Although one type of heterotrophs, the fungi, excel at taking up phosphorus and may form mutualistic symbiotic relationship with plant roots. So these relationships are called mycorrhizae. The plant gets phosphate from the fungus and gives the fungus sugar in return. So animals also use phosphorus as a component of bones, teeth, and scales. When animals or plants die, the phosphate may be returned to the soil or water by the decomposers. There it can be taken up by another plant and used again. So this cycle will occur over and over until at last the phosphorus is lost at the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean, where it becomes part of sedimentary rocks. So ultimately, this phosphorus will be released if the rock is brought to the surface and weathered. Two types of animals play a unique role in the phosphorus cycle. Humans obtain mine rock rich in phosphorus. And that's all. Thank you.